Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's edition of the Whitfield Report. It is Saturday night, and I am here live at NGC Studio. Welcome to the show. I'm so glad to have all of you here with me here tonight, whether you be here in the past, present, future hour, and we're streaming live here on both YouTube and DLive.com simultaneously. I also tried setting up Periscope, but streaming's not working over there for whatever reason. But 2 out of the 3 platforms, not bad. So anyway, welcome to both audiences on DLive and on YouTube as well. So, yeah, welcome everyone. Contact info as usual. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at @SomeDB_NDC. Hashtag Whitfield Report. You can follow me on Gab and Parler at Sam Whitfield. Facebook.com/Whitfield Report. TheSamWhitfield.com for all your latest news and whatnot. So, updates on the show. Subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all that jazz. Although I still have to upload last week's episodes to the feed because apparently I uploaded them, but apparently they didn't process or whatever, so they're not on there. So I'll re-upload last week's as well for those of you who like to listen on audio. But anyway, I'm here now, and as the title suggests, folks, it has been the week from hell, ladies and gentlemen. And I covered a bit of this earlier in the week with the Versa Media crew, but there have been riots non-stop across the country along with protests. Protests are justified, riots are not in my opinion. But anyway, let me go ahead and give a quick shout out to the chat. We have Apex Gamma, we have Owen Benjamin, Sucks Vox Off, which that may be the only good thing that happened, that may be the only good thing that happened this week that I can think of. Some news with that. Also, John Arcade, the man, the myth, the legend. And I think I saw Davey in here a bit ago in the YouTube chat, but I'm not sure if he is still in here or not. But yeah, riots across the country, ladies and gentlemen, and I don't want to get off on a rant here to begin the show, but not how I do. What am I talking about? So, folks, I think by now we can pretty much all agree, most of us, mostly everyone has seen the George Floyd video, and, I think we can all agree that the video was, repulsive to say the least. He shouldn't have been, killed in the way he was, obviously. And I think this does bring up a good opportunity to talk about police brutality in this country because, I've been thinking about things this week, and for the most part, let me say this. I am pro-cop to the point where I know good officers and I've known good police personally, but I also have quite a lot of. I have friends who have been on the other side of that fence, and needless to say, we definitely have an issue with police brutality in this country. I don't want to, name people, but I know, people who have had really shitty experiences with cops. Some of them may be watching right now. Some of my cop buddies might be watching. Either or, feel free to jump in the chat here and chime in. But there definitely is a problem with police brutality that needs to be addressed in this country, and I think there's a way to do it. I think having dialogues about it is successful, and that's what we need to do, by and large. With that being said, though, I think we need to largely leave race out of the police brutality problem. And I know I'm going to catch flack on YouTube, certainly, for saying that. But this problem with police brutality goes beyond just, racism and whatnot. That's not to say that there isn't a racial element in certain amounts of these cases, but I think, by and large, like I said, the people I know who have been, had shitty run-ins with cops, not all of them are black, and not all of them are quote-unquote minorities. So I think to say that, police brutality is strictly a minority problem is, really, really bad. And whenever I say that I agree with, whenever I talk to someone who says they stand with Black Lives Matter, these are mostly my white liberal friends. I tell them, I agree that police brutality is an issue. However, I think we need to talk about it more than just a racial issue. And they freak out because they think that this is strictly a race paradigm thing. It's not. There are good cops and there are shitty cops out there. Lately, it seems like we've been seeing a lot more shitty cops than good cops, and in my experience, up until COVID happened, I always had a pretty good experience. But even I will admit, when COVID first happened, we had cop cars patrolling our neighborhood, for to make sure that people weren't breaking in the neighborhood and trying to steal stuff, which that part I'm okay with. But there was one incident where I was outside, by the bay, just kind of rolling along in my chair. You guys have seen me do those streams. I was just minding my own business. Again, I'm not one to wear a mask, at least not in my own neighborhood, because it's my neighborhood. There aren't a lot of people out there, especially not at 5 in the afternoon. I was just minding my own business. All of a sudden, this cop pulls up and asks me why I'm not wearing a mask, and he gets to be a bit of an asshole about it. And I tell him, there's no law in place that says I have to wear a mask. And he says, well, you really should wear one. And the way he's saying it, just his tone of voice was kind of intimidating. But I held my ground and said, I understand that, but I'm not wearing a mask in my own neighborhood. When I go and public to big stores or whatever, then I will. But in my neighborhood, I think I'm pretty safe here, and I appreciate your concern, but you know, please, please move on. And at this point too, I pulled my phone out and started I didn't record, but I pretended like I was recording, and he kind of did move on, but it just goes to show that I think a lot of these authority figures during COVID got bored. Now that's just one incident. I also, speaking of law enforcement, I've also said for years now that I think TSA is a major pain in the ass. Sometimes, unfortunately, literally, and this goes back to another thing. If we want to talk about police brutality and whatnot, let's talk about the Patriot Act, too, which has, originally I was before the Patriot Act, but it's been, 18 years almost since, 9/11 happened. It's coming up on 20 years. And we've had the Patriot Act. Think about it this way, folks. I'm 25. We've had the Patriot Act since I was fucking 6 years old. And what has it done other than, allow the government to spy on us more readily and more easily, which, that includes law enforcement. It hasn't really stopped any, terror threats. I can think of maybe one that, the TSA stopped that I can remember. And that was when that idiot tried to smuggle a bomb onto the plane with his shoe. And I don't even think the TSA stopped that in the line. I think it was able to get to the gate before someone stopped him. I think airport security might have actually stopped that one. Just local airport police. But bottom line is, it's not so much a race issue that we need to be talking about here. I mean, it certainly is for some communities, but by and large, I think this is more of an authority issue. Because I can guarantee you that if George Floyd was a white guy, and I can almost guarantee you, we don't know what happened for sure, but it's pretty safe to say that if George Floyd had been a white guy, people say he might not have been killed, but we don't know that for sure. That cop might have still had his foot on Floyd's neck. That asshole cop would have most likely been an asshole to a white guy and killed him as much as a black guy. And he also, this is the other thing, that cop had 19 prior citations, 19, and he was still allowed to be a cop. So that's the main issue I see. As far as the protests go, I think the peaceful protests are warranted. That yes, Black lives do matter, and we need police reforms. When it's peaceful protests like that I can get behind that. What I can't get behind is when Antifa shows up and starts, these paid activists who start burning buildings and rioting and shit like that, and breaking into small business owners and burning shit down. I mean, hell, I've done 3 streams so far just this week with the Versa Media guys, where we have watched in real time as these cities have burned on the news feed and done commentary. And I've got to say, I'm doing it again at 11 with the Versa Media guys, so I will be restreaming that here and on their channel as well. So check that out. Quick plug. But yeah, this lawlessness is no way to solve things at all. So we need to talk more about police brutality and authority and whatnot as a societal issue rather than just a race issue alone. Let me go ahead and check some of the comments. So far we have, let's see, a cop arrested a duck in my town yesterday. What a clock. Let's see. Yeah. Just watching the world burn. 2 out of 3, not bad. Oh yeah, in terms of platforms. Have you seen his rap sheet, Sam? Floyd's? Yeah, Johnny. I mean, I'm not saying that George Floyd was, a good guy necessarily. This is the other thing is, this is the one thing where I will give Black Lives Matter. Well, I'll give Black Lives Matter crap on a lot of stuff, but needless to say, George Floyd, Mike Brown, none of them have exactly been angels, but at the same time, this Darren guy or whatever, the cop's name wasn't an angel either. I mean, putting your knee on the guy's neck, that is a little upset. That is a bit much, use of excessive force, I believe the term is. Oh yeah, we have some people tuning in on D Live as well. So yeah. So I don't think anyone really summed this thing better up this week than Tucker Carlson. He did a fantastic segment on this earlier this week about how these riots have been breaking out and happening, and yet the politicians on both sides don't really seem to give a damn about much of this. And I'm going to play a bit of it here in just a sec. I'm not going to play the whole segment, but I'm going to play the first few minutes of it because I think it is definitely worth watching for sure. So this is Tucker's monologue from earlier this week, which I want to break down about how our politicians really have kind of let us down here. So anyway, cut number 1, roll the tape.
When the mobs came, they abandoned us. Good evening and welcome to Tucker Carlson tonight. The nation went up in flames this weekend. No one in charge stood up to save America. Our leaders dithered, they cowered, they openly sided with the destroyers. In many cases, they egged them on. Later, they will deny doing any of this. They are denying it now. But you know the truth because you saw it happen. This is how nations collapse. When no one in authority keeps order, and when so many in our professional class encourage violence, American citizens are forced to defend themselves. They have no choice. No one else is going to defend them. They know that now. It's possible that more people will be hurt in coming days. That would be a tragedy. But in an environment like this, more violence could very well lead to a cascade of new tragedies, to something far bigger and more destructive than anything we have seen so far. So this isn't over. It might simply be the beginning. We pray it isn't. It's hard to think clearly about anything that's going on right now. The chaos, the destruction, the relentless lying from above. It's all too much. Americans are bewildered and they are afraid, but most of all, they are filled with rage, angrier than they have ever been. The worst people in our society have taken control. They did nothing to build this country. Now they are tearing it down. They are rushing us toward mass suicide. So how do we respond? We must protect ourselves and our families. Once again, we have no choice but to do that. But we cannot allow ourselves to become like they are. We are not animals. We are Americans. In the face of such indecency, we must resolve to be decent. We believe this country has a future. We intend for our children to live and thrive here. That is what we are defending. All our leaders do is set us against each other. They stage a never-ending national cockfight for their profit and amusement. But we're not going to play along. We will love our neighbors relentlessly in spite of all of it, not because they look like us or share our political views, but we love them because they are human beings and they are Americans. Those are the bonds that tie us together, the bonds our leaders seek to destroy. We can't let them.
And by the way, this is what I have been trying to say all week long to a lot of my, to a lot of my IRL friends. And, to their credit, a lot of the regular listeners of this show agree. But a lot of people just want to get angry and politicize this. And, like I said, I'm in 90%, agreement that a lot of this, shit with the cops, a lot of the anger is justified. But I don't want to politicize this totally, and a lot of them do. They want to defund the cops, which I don't think, completely, which I don't think is a good idea. And, like Tucker Carlson says, we need to love our neighbors, regardless of race or political affiliation. But the political left, they don't want that. So, like I said, I'm not going to play this whole clip, but I do want to keep on playing it because he makes some valid points here.
We should start by being unsparingly honest about what is happening right now. Truth is our defense, and it's our country's last hope. We plan to use tonight's hour to create a record of this moment right now, to show you what's really going on in your country. We feel an obligation to do that before the facts are spun into propaganda by the liars, or the images are pulled off the internet forever, as many of them inevitably will be. We're going to begin tonight with where my family lives and has lived for 35 years in the northwest quadrant of Washington, D.C. This is called Mack Market. It's on MacArthur Boulevard, which is named after General MacArthur during the war. It's our neighborhood store. It's walking distance from my house. People meet there every morning for coffee. Kids come after school for candy. It's as close to a community gathering spot as we have. The market is run by the Kim family. The Kims are immigrants from Korea. They are revered in our neighborhood for their decency and their hard work. When they lost their son several years ago, the neighbors grieved for them. The Kims are not political. They've never hurt anyone. They only make things better. But last night, the mob came for their store. At 1 a.m. this morning, Mr. Kim was kneeling alone on the sidewalk trying to salvage what he has spent his life building. Scenes like this played out in hundreds of neighborhoods across this country, maybe yours. Here are a few. In Columbia, South Carolina, a man called the police when things began to fall apart. Rioters saw him call. They surrounded that man and they beat him. Onlookers laughed as he was pummeled.
Oh, hell no. They about to get on his oh, Lord. Oh, no. What? Damn.
In Rochester, New York, a group of 8 men smashed the windows of a jewelry store. A couple who lived above the shop emerged to confront them. Both of them were viciously beaten with a ladder and a 2x4. In Dallas, a man armed with what appeared.
So you kind of have to ask, and I've actually asked this question, what the hell, do these riots accomplish, right? Because some people out there, or mainly the Antifa activists out there, are saying that, riots are completely, justified. The anger and the upheaval is, justified because of the, police brutality and the murder of George Floyd. Okay, but what does beating a defenseless, what does beating and, possibly even killing shop owners do to solve any of that? Like, I've asked that question. You're missing the point, bro. That's not what it's about at all. Really? Because that's what it's becoming about. So again, what do any of these riots, have to do with anything at all? Now, the other thing I do want to point out, I should have pointed this out at the beginning, is this clip is from June 1st, so the beginning of the week. I believe when Tucker did this monologue, Trump hadn't yet, stood in front of that church, but we'll get to that too. So, continuing on.
To be a sword, did his best to defend a business from looters. The mob bashed him in the head with a rock and a skateboard. What are they doing? It's hard to watch. In San Jose, rioters with crowbars stormed the highway and attacked vehicles trying to pull drivers from their cars.
Yeah, Johnny in the chat says these riots are exposing the biggest pieces of shit in society. Keep notes. Yeah, and also thanks for reminding me. Yeah, there's also that video. I think I saw on your channel, Johnny. I think there was that video on your channel, Johnny, of the. In fact, let me try and find actually. I think it's the video, if I'm not mistaken, of the protester strangling the puppy, because that also went viral. That also went viral. You actually had one of the best. I mean, it's horrible, but as far as like, the quality of the video itself, you actually had one of the better ones I saw. And yeah, folks, we'll get to the Owen Benjamin stuff later tonight too, because I mean, let's face it, that is like one of the only good things that is going on. Johnny Arcade. Okay, yeah. Peaceful puppies, quote unquote peaceful protester strangles a puppy on live TV. Yeah, well, this violent protester strangled a peaceful puppy. That's more.
We're going to let you go to a different spot there, so we don't need to be looking at that. And
Now, look at that, folks, and tell me, is that fucking justified in George Floyd's name? How is that beating police brutality? How is that solving, black oppression in America, quote unquote. How is doing that to a dog helping anything? See, this is the other thing. You're not allowed to criticize these violent rioters, for their stuff. Otherwise, you're allying yourself with police brutality. Again, this goes back to my whole thing of when we talk about police brutality, we really need to take the race equation out of it. Scott Adams, too, actually brought this up, okay? In one of his periscopes, he did the, Scott Adams, the guy who writes Dilbert, he does periscopes a lot, and, I mean, he does them a couple times a day. I think I got his periscope on Tuesday, and the title of his periscope was basically making the sale. And he basically says something to the effect of, I can't find it on YouTube. I don't think anyone has posted it there yet. He basically says, okay, black people have successfully made the sale about police brutality in America. And they say they want, white help. But until they bring us to the table and ask for our help regarding police brutality, they're not going to be able to fix things on their own. And also, they can't be saying, we want your help, but then also, criticizing us for trying to help them, too, which is something that they've done, too, with these protests somewhat. So yeah, the image of the puppy getting strangled, that was disturbing. I could just, play footage of some of these demonstrations going on. I play them non-stop. Like I said, I'll be on with the Versa guys starting at around 11 to, start doing that. But, yeah, look here. These riders are pulling people out of their cars, too. This was in San Jose.
In Birmingham, Alabama, a local reporter called Stephen Quinn was beaten and then he was robbed on live television as he tried to cover the looting.
That is the horrible scene that you see right there as they are. We're wanting to make sure that Stephen is all right.
In Portland, Oregon, a man was beaten apparently for daring to carry an American flag in public. He never released the flag, by the way.
Done with people like you. I have your opinion.
Yeah, anyone who's conservative or hell, anyone who loves America on either side of the aisle there, folks, needs to get the hell out of Portland as fast as they can. Like, even if you're a moderate liberal, leave, because, I've covered Portland for years and years with my friend Dan Sandini. Portland has been a leftist shithole for years. So this doesn't really surprise me at all that Antifa is worst there. Okay. So like I said, I don't want to play this whole entire clip of Tucker, but it is worth watching, so I will put it in the show notes after the show and whatnot. But I did find a fascinating article from, of all places, Medium.com that I want to read for you, and I shared this on Twitter earlier, but I think it is worth watching. This is by Caitlin Johnstone, who isn't necessarily known for being right-wing, exactly. But I've read some of her stuff, and although she is somewhat liberal, she's not as bad as some other people out there. And I read this before the show, and I actually thought it made a lot of sense here. So, headline for those of you listening on audio: the establishment only dislikes Trump because he puts an ugly face on the empire. Barack Obama has given his perfunctory speech about the Black Lives Matter protests taking place in America today, and it was every bit as full of pretty words and empty of actual substance as you'd expect from a president who spent 8 years stagnating the progressive movement with empty hope narrative, while advancing the same murderous, oppressive agendas as his predecessors. The former president talked about changes that need to be made, as though he wasn't the most powerful politician in America for 2 full terms. Praised the nation's police officers, saying, quote unquote, the vast majority of them protect and serve the people, and encourage them to continue making empty gestures of solidarity with the protesters to calm them down. Quote, I want to acknowledge the folks in law enforcement that share the goal of reimagining policing, Obama said, because there are folks out there who took their oath to serve your communities and to your countries, who have the tough job, and I know you're just as outraged about the tragedies in the recent weeks as are many of the protesters. So we're grateful for the vast majority of you who protect and serve. I've been heartened to see those in law enforcement who recognize, let me march along with those protesters. Let me stand side by side and recognize that I want to be part of the solution, and have shown restraint and volunteered and engaged and listened, because you've been a vital part of the conversation and change everything that is going to require everyone's participation. Which, by the way, folks, I do want to editorialize a bit here. Police should not be bowing down like that when it comes to, I've seen pictures of the cops kneeling with the protesters, which they should not be doing that. They should not be, kowtowing to the protesters' whims, even if they are peaceful, but they are authority figures, so they at least need to, maintain that presence out there. So, back to the article. George W. Bush also weighed in on the protests with the quote-unquote compassionate conservative who murdered 1 million Iraqis, sending liberals throughout the Twitterverse into fits of ecstasy with his emotional plea for empathy and shared commitment, and bold action and peace, and a peace rooted in injustice. Establishment narrative mongers on both sides of America's imaginary partisan divide have been saturating the mass media with gushing praise for the two former presidents and their wonderful worlds of healing and unity. And indeed, the words are quite nice. They will change exactly nothing, but they sound nice. And that is exactly what a U.S. president's job is. Not to end police brutality and systemic racism, not to make change which benefit the American people, and certainly not to make the world a less violent, murderous place, but to say pretty words which lull the public into a pleasant propaganda-induced coma, while the sociopathic oligarchs who really run things rob them blind. So yeah, I will say this for Caitlin Johnstone. She's a bit out there when it comes to some of this stuff. She is on the left, and I don't necessarily agree with everything that she writes. But even a broken clock is right twice a day on some of this stuff. So she at least gets that part of it. So, there was also an article on The Verge that I wanted to read for you. This actually got pretty annoying here. Let me see if I can pull this up, and in the meantime, let me read the chat here. So, hold on a sec. Okay. Let's see. Let's see. Yeah. Oh. Going back to the dog thing, the dog had zero to do with Floyd. Anyone who can hurt an animal is just because is a turtle shitbag. Yep, I agree. Johnny Arcade, blacks love dogs, Sam. What does this lead to? Cops will and are already quitting left and right. Military, police. Yeah, exactly. Shovel Point makes a good point. If you think that this is actually going to solve the issues of the police, this ain't gonna do jack. This bad. Apex Gamma. Oh, shoot. Shady J is in the chat. So, Sam is probably on the floor. No, I'm not on the floor yet, Shady J. So, but yeah. And then Fat Keckboy with some really great stickers on D Live. So, the white girls fuck dogs. Yeah, they do. So, everyone go over there and subscribe on dlive.tv/Philip as well. So, because I have a feeling that YouTube might not like what I'm saying here these days. But, I don't know. Let's see. Let's see. Basically, I wanted to pop an article because this Black Lives Matter propaganda has started popping up all over the place again. Let me see if I can pull this up. Thought I had this in my bookmarks, but I'll have to manually Google this. Call of Duty. Basically, folks, in the latest Call of Duty update, and okay, so here's the article I bookmarked, and I will pull up on the screen for you guys here. Sorry about the wait. Basically, headline from the New York Post. Call of Duty adds Black Lives Matter message to loading screen. And, yeah. Let's, no escaping this anymore. No escaping it. So, Call of Duty is adding a new feature to its mega popular Modern Warfare game, social activism. The best-selling shooting game now includes a message splashed on its loading screen with Black Lives Matter written in large, bold print. Our community is hurting, the statement first spotted by The Verge reads. The systemic inequalities our community experiences are once again center stage. Well, yeah, I will say that the gaming community has severe inequality in it. You're right about that. I mean, it's, the gaming community is filled with a bunch of guys who can't get laid, so that's pretty unequal, in and of itself. But all joking aside, though, Call of Duty and Infinite Ward stand for equality and inclusion. We stand against the racism and injustice our black community endures. Until change happens and Black Lives Matter, we will never truly be the community we strive to be. End quote. The message, which pops up anytime players boot the game up or switch between modes on the game's menu, arrived after the developer Infinity Ward announced that it was busy issuing thousands of daily bans of racist and hate-oriented names, but acknowledged that it has to do more. Oh, so Infinity Ward is now banning gamer tags now, huh? Which is, yeah. Earlier this week, popular video game Fortnite announced that it was quote unquote delaying its end of season event in the wake of the George Floyd protests, saying that it was giving time for the team to focus on themselves, their families, and their communities. Shares of publisher Activision Blizzard were down nearly 2% in early morning trading. And let's see, this article came out on yesterday morning, so June 5th. Okay, and we've seen the same stuff with, Netflix, Apple Music, Spotify had a big blackout thing. Heck, Reddit, of course, was no surprise. Reddit changed their whole icon, to Black Lives Matter, basically. You can't escape this anymore, no matter where you go. And look, I mean, I think there is, a time and place to talk about this. But, geez, let the escapism remain just that, escapism. Not everything has to be, so, I mean, we are living in dark times, and that's the unfortunate thing, and I am afraid that these protests aren't going to get any better as time goes on. Unfortunately, I think they're just going to get more violent and more chaotic. With that being said, though, I also think that in terms of entertainment and in terms of, pop culture, obviously people have the right to say what they want to. It's a free country. But I do think it's a little much to have a splash screen of Black Lives Matter in your video game whenever you boot the game up. That's a bit much. We literally can't escape any of this propaganda. And by the way, I will say, I will ask what I've always asked about this. When have Black Lives not mattered in recent history as a society? I mean, the cop did get arrested for killing Floyd. He did get in trouble. It wasn't like he just killed this guy. It wasn't like he killed Floyd in cold blood and then just walked away. He got his conviction, upgraded from third-degree murder to second-degree murder. To say Black Lives Matter is true, because they do matter, but I have to ask, in 2020, who is saying that Black lives don't matter? That's what I want to know. Other than the, other than the wignats out there, the white supremacists and the blatant alt-right, is society still really saying that Black lives, don't matter? That's what I'm not getting here. They do matter, and they should matter. All lives matter. But, I bet that comment alone will at least get me in trouble on, YouTube for sure. Which, by the way, let me make sure that the, chat is still working here. Should still be working. So, I don't know how much of a delay there is. So, also, DLive seems to be working pretty well, so that's good at least. Yeah. First time multi-streaming on 2 platforms, so that's why I'm, that's why I'm checking everything to make sure it works. So anyway, folks, that is the serious end of the news here. So, it's been a hell of a week here, folks. And like I said, I don't think that the peaceful protests are unwarranted. I think they certainly are justified. But I don't think rioting is the solution at all. And, it's going to make things worse in the long run as opposed to better. So, before we end tonight's, first hour of the program, I'll be back for the second hour with Versa Media once I get connected with them here. I do want to share some good news with you guys, which is that Big Bear is finally getting his comeuppance, hopefully after all this time. This video, let me find it, comes from Milker Nation. And let's see. Oh, I thought it was here. Let me see. Oh, maybe it's on Johnny's channel. It's probably on Johnny Arcade's channel, if I'm not mistaken here. Vox said, Johnny says, Vox said today we should all be supporting this despite our hatred of Owen. Okay, yeah, thanks, Johnny. Yeah, so long story short, for those of you who haven't seen this already in the community, Owen Benjamin is getting sued by Patreon. Owen and Vox both are getting sued by Patreon, which is great. Fucking fantastic. Let me open up Discord. Johnny, hold on. Yeah, okay, yeah, Discord is open, so or you can, yeah, I guess send it to me that way, since you're not on Twitter. But yeah, I'm glad to see that Owen is finally getting sued. I suppose I could pull up the thing on Reddit here real quick, which explains the whole situation. Let me go to my screen here. Okay. Go to my vids, they're up. Okay. Will do. So. Yeah, usually I have all this stuff, queued up, but, with the new DLive thing, with the multi-streaming, it's, I'm having to actually, do 2 windows of Chrome and minimizing and whatnot. So, yeah. So also streamlabs.com/the report if you want to donate to the program. All right, so this is great, folks. I am ecstatic about this. So, first video I want to play for you guys is this doozy right here. Did Owen Benjamin and his fans try to extort Patreon for $3.5 million? This is a oh boy, this is a great one. I'm excited. Take it away, Johnny.
Man threatened to assert and offered to settle claims by other patrons. Realizing that his claims had no merit, Smith solicited other patron users to assert additional meritless claims on his behalf, hoping that the weight of scores of nuisance cases would accomplish what a single nuisance case could not. Specifically, a multi-million-dollar settlement for Smith and a reinstatement of his Patreon account. Consistent with that strategy, on November 12, 2019, after the Smith arbitration had been submitted, Attorney Mann told Patreon's in-house counsel, Colin Sullivan, the man also represented 83 individuals who intend to file 83 individual demands for arbitration to be administered by JAMS. Concerning the matter of Patreon's interference in their separate contractual relationships with Owen Benjamin Smith, Exhibit D. The following day, Mann invited settlement discussions, stating that settlement discussions between Smith and Patreon would certainly address all the arbitrations we have mentioned, including Owen's and those yet to be filed. On November 15, 2019, in anticipation of a settlement conversation with Patreon, Mann made a settlement demand. Mann wrote that he would proceed with the individual patron claims unless Patreon agreed to pay Smith $2.2 million and reinstate Smith's patron account. Mann continued, "Our intention is to address all claims, Smith's and the individual patrons, and any discussions with you based upon the required relief described above." Now, Patreon rejected that offer. In December of 2019, Mann increased the demand. He informed Patreon that he would file claims on behalf of 100 Patreon users unless Patreon agreed to pay $3.5 million and reinstate Smith's account. Patreon rejected that offer as well. On January 6, 2020, Mann and Smith followed through on their threat and filed the 100 additional claims, although each patron statement of claim recites that the claimant has remitted payment of the $250 arbitration fee. In fact, Smith's attorney submitted a single check for $25,000 on behalf of all the individual patron claimants.
So, basically, Owen is now getting sued for trying and extorting, Patreon, along with 73 other bears out there. Now, here's something that I do want to bring to people's attention, and I'm not even exactly sure that you've considered this, Johnny, but I do want to bring one thing up. So, that sounds like extortion to me, folks. Basically, Vox and Owen got 85, or I guess 74 people, probably more than that, to file lawsuits against Patreon on Owen's behalf. And now Patreon is countersuing them in retaliation. So, where did Owen basically learn this, mass arbitration technique? Where did he learn it, by chance? Well, I actually had someone, I haven't read this myself, but a friend of mine, or rather, I guess you could say someone I've had on the, inside of things, read this gem for me. Let me pull it up for you guys. SJWs Always Lie by Vox Day. Taking down the thought police. Now, this is a clear, ripoff of Jonah Goldberg's book, Liberal Fascism. The cover and everything is a total ripoff. But basically, from what I understand, the synopsis of this book is basically, from what I understand, simply to just use the SJW tactics against the quote-unquote SJWs themselves, right? So, in this case, Vox and Owen claim that Patreon are a bunch of social justice warriors, and that they're censoring Owen's free speech and all that, garbage nonsense. I mean, which they are, but it's because Owen's, a piece of crap, and violated their terms more than once, I, should say. So basically, what do? You do what Antifa and the radical left do, and you basically threaten to sue, the company and bring multiple lawsuits against them and basically blackball them into giving you what you want, which is what Owen and Vox have done. And so Owen probably read this book, or Vox basically just told them the synopsis of this book here, which I'm not going to spend the $5.99 on because it's not worth it at all. But basically, Vox is using his own stupid, tactics against Patreon that he listened to this book. And now, well, let's see the reaction here from Big Bear himself, right? Guys, I'm getting sued. Patreon is suing me. Guys. So, how did using these SJW tactics work out for Owen? Let's find out.
This is going to be news to all of the backers who are currently engaged in arbitrations. Patreon has filed a lawsuit in California against 72 of the 95 or so backers who are in arbitration against them. Now, before anybody panics and before anybody starts sending emails saying, am I on the list or not, what you have to understand is this isn't how the legal system works. It's important to understand that these companies and their legal servitors center all their strategy around fear.
All of it.
It's all about how we're going to sue you. we're going to take your house.
Can we tell the people about what they accused us of when we first talked to them?
Okay, so that's pretty funny that Vox is saying, oh, Patreon isn't really going to do anything. They're just scaring us, because I seem to remember at the end of last year, probably around like Thanksgiving or so, maybe right before Thanksgiving, right? Davy Crocco was going to get sued for hacking, for quote-unquote hacking unauthorized TV, right? That was going to be a huge, thing. A big no-no. And, Davy Crockett was going to get sued. Johnny was going to get sued. They were going to try and find out who Milker Nation was and get his, ass sued. Like, I was told by some of my, insiders that yours truly was also on the list. So, they were going to sue all of the secret Gamma Kings, for torturous torturous interference or tortoise interference in Teddy Spaghetti's case, right? So that was their big thing. So now Owen is getting a little scared here, folks. He's getting scared.
Oh yeah, absolutely. The crazy thing is that they accused people who had never talked to them in any capacity of trying to commit extortion.
Yeah. Now that people see the severity of this, there's people that are like, oh, Owen and Vax aren't even serving people. We may be putting them out of business, and I have a lot of friends on Patreon, so just rest assured that if we do put them out of business, the Social Galactic guys will most likely create a much better one.
And if we do happen to inadvertently wipe out PayPal, then we want to try to help the good people who have been used, or not PayPal, sorry, getting ahead of ourselves. If we happen to inadvertently wipe out a service that people actually need, then we want.
Yeah, they're listen, folks. They're not going to wipe out. They're just not going to wipe out Patreon. It's not going to happen, and they're certainly not going to wipe out PayPal. One of the largest payment processors in the world. Owen and Vox, those two are going to take down two of the biggest, payment processors, for content. I mean, Patreon is one of the biggest payment collection places for, content creators, like them or not. PayPal is a massive payment platform, period. And they think they're going to take down both of those companies. Yeah. Also, John Arcade says, I wasn't going to get sued. I wasn't part of that. I mean, neither was Davey. Davey wasn't involved in any hacking or anything, but I mean, they were full of bluster. Anyway. And Owen looks nervous, too, I might add.
I want to make sure that people have access to some sort of replacement.
Yeah, because we never thought that was even on the table at first. We thought that we were going to get me replatformed and justice was going to be served. But the way they're acting, I start getting a little nervous. I have friends on Patreon, and I'm like, man, are we going to destroy Patreon? Because they're acting so crazy, guys. Like, to the point where I would feel bad for them if they weren't just so viciously evil. They're not even suing Patreon. You guys don't even understand what we've been doing this whole time. And then they threatened to take my house and all this stuff.
We know what you've been doing in your spare time. Mr. Mr. Room Wax and Gay Pornos. We know what you've been doing.
And it was just such an obvious bluff. Oh, and I'm so freaking proud of you. It's not over yet, guys. We're still fighting here. We're not. This isn't a victory dance. We're just letting all my backers know that they're going to try and posture with them, and to stand strong. And no matter what happens, that's the power of community. Is we come together and we make it happen. You're never alone. You're never on your own in any of this. And I'll just leave it at that. The lawyers we're up against with Patreon are not on Patreon's side. They're on their side. They're running Patreon into the dirt. And we, are not talking to any of them because last time they accused us of extortion because they're liars.
No, and they're not liars. That's exactly what you tried to do. I mean, you even said to... You and Vox even said that in your streams to put pressure on Patreon that way. So so Patreon isn't lying, and they don't have their own team of lawyers, but most companies like that don't. I mean, there are some companies like Microsoft and Apple who might have, but most other companies in the Valley and tech, they contract with law firms outside. That's how the law works, Owen. But, oh boy. Yeah, so that was the one good thing to come out of all this stuff. So, yeah. Yeah. Alan Powell says, I hope base Texas and Connington are part of getting sued. Yeah, I don't know about that. I don't know about that. The list is out there on Reddit, folks, but Johnny says, take that fucking house, God, please. Well, Johnny, is the house gonna be worth anything though? That's the question. Doesn't really seem like it. I mean, the way Owen's been taking care of the house, it doesn't seem like it's gonna be worth anything. So, you should play the Vox stream from today, Sam. The explanation starts getting good at about 5 minutes. Okay, Vox's stream from today. You know what? I'll go it along. I'll go it along today, and let me find that stream. I can't believe I'm actually going into Vox's channel. That's scary. It's color revision comes to America, right? Right, guys? I'm assuming that's what this is. Let me get back to the chat here. Okay, yeah. Oh yeah, it is, I think. Alan Sam, the reason your logo has eyes, no ears, and no mouth because you hear no evil, see no evil, and speak no evil. Alan, that's as good of an explanation as an so. Voxstar streams. I figured he would just admit defeat after being demoralized by some people. All them out for his bullshit. Yeah. Yeah, Warfist, that's actually a good point. So, I mean, and Alan, as far as the logo goes, I hadn't considered that, but that's good lore. So, by the way, shout out to Evil Eric for making that logo. But yeah, I guess. All right.
And that you do so. If you go to what they are is they are so-called leaders who are installed as globalist puppets. There are obviously a number of countries where they shut this down, if not necessarily specifically as determined that the government that was blamed for having shot the rioters hadn't actually shot them. The shots were coming from
okay. Oh yeah, I got
elsewhere,
your thing.
And it looks like they actually ended up that there were some snipers working for the color revolutionaries who shot the people who were nominally on their own side. And so the game is, remember, we live in a
okay, folks. So wrong stream. Apparently,
world.
Johnny just sent me the link, so here it is.
And yes,
okay, so this is the right one. The Panic at Patreon. This was today's stream, I guess. Also, I do want to note that Vox should probably mute his microphone, while playing the intro. Like I do. I can hear his breathing, and that's pretty unprofessional.
some of their users. And the reason that I'm addressing this publicly, because we've actually
73, 74.
About some of the stuff that we haven't let people know about. And so what we're going to let you know about is some stuff that is...
Okay, get to the point.
They've attempted to dox and make life difficult for the 72 bears that are currently the subject
so it
of
is
the
72
lawsuit
bears.
filed by Patreon. Let me see if I can find it here. There we are. Okay, so the short title is Patreon Inc. versus a gentleman by the name of Mike. It's got the list of all 72 of the names, which is not technically a violation of the California Data Privacy Act. Unfortunately, the California Data Privacy Act specifically excludes legal claims from this. However, it's a pretty unethical thing to do, especially in light of the fact that their case is just absolutely ridiculous, if not retarded. So anyhow,
kind of like your case against Davey was retarded, dude. Yeah, right. So it is 74 bears then that are getting sued. I see. See this is my other. Okay, so you guys want to hear my new theory regarding all this? My new theory regarding all this is that the 72 Bears will get sued, right? I mean, Warfist in the comments just hit it on the head. They are sacrificing 72 bear cubs to Moloch. Exactly. See, Owen and Vox, the Bears are going to get sued. And the 72 or 74 Bears are most likely going to get crushed by Patreon. And then Vox and Owen will just walk away scot-free. I mean, that's how grifters work. They'll probably make up like some bullshit story with with Patreon, like, oh, we didn't tell any of our audience to go and harass you guys. These people were acting entirely on their own. Now, I don't know how well that will work out, considering that, they've openly talked about going after Patreon on their live streams and whatnot. But still, as Warfist said, they will feed bear cubs to Moloch, and yeah. So, let's see. Keep playing it. He explains all of this. Yeah, I'm going to. I'm just saying what my new theory is to all this, Johnny.
Now let's see. Here's the first one. Vox, Owen, proving their leadership skills, leading their backers into a stupid, detrimental situation they have no hoping of winning, which was also completely unnecessary. Okay, so let me go ahead and correct that one first.
Well, whoever commented that is absolutely right, though. Vox and Owen are leading their followers down a bad path. Absolutely.
We not only have a hoping of winning, we have already won. There was only ever one key core decision that mattered, and that decision has been made. That issue has been settled. It's all over now, except the playing out the grinding out the time, and that's why Patreon is doing what they're doing. That's why they filed the lawsuit, because they know it's over. And if they weren't so retarded, they would have simply accepted the reality of the situation from the beginning, because the whole situation was mathematically certain from the very beginning. But the core problem that they had is that they didn't go with a first-rate law firm like Indiegogo did. Oric has a bunch of people from Stanford, Harvard Law, first-rate, very smart lawyers. For whatever reason, and I'm beginning to suspect that a company like Oric would have told Patreon that they couldn't win, that it was a no-win situation. I don't know that happened, but that's what I would tend to suspect. Now, keep in mind, I'm not a lawyer, so I'm not up on the various case law, written law, etc., etc.
Oh, you're not a lawyer, eh, Vox? Well, then how come you were threatening Davy Crocco with torturous, interference and all that BS a few months ago? You were claiming to be a big legal expert. Then you were gonna sue Davy and everyone associated with him a few months ago. Now all of a sudden that you're getting sued. Oh, I'm not an attorney at all. I'm not an expert. But Patreon is going to lose too. Yeah. Keep telling yourself that.
But the lawyers that I know are very, very, very good lawyers. We're not talking about, you know, a little panty waist boutique pit bulls out of Oakland, which is what they went with. One of my best friends is former head of legal at a $2 billion company. In contrast with that, Patreon's head of legal is a young guy named Colin Sullivan, who got the job when he was 3 years out of the 143rd best law school in the country. So we're not talking about, we're not even talking about third-rate lawyers here. We're talking about people who are, they're not bottom feeders in the sense of, the the rumpled tie guy, chasing ambulances. They're probably a step up from that, maybe two.
Yeah, good point. Johnny just brought up a good point too in the chat. Doxed by Vox's standards. Yeah, and I don't know if you guys can see the chat replay here in my display window. I think I'm showing that, but you guys might not be able to see it. But I just saw in the chat replay window here, the VFM or whatever Vox's premium members. One of them just said, "I wrote Colin a letter." Which that's probably not good. If the VFM are writing, the opposing teams, Vox's, opponent's legal team a letter, meaning it's not going to end up well for Vox, that is. So, yeah.
But the key thing is that they simply didn't understand how arbitration works. They truly never understood how the system functioned, and it was really bizarre to see how not only did they clearly not know, but they didn't even learn from their mistakes, and it's gotten quasi comical at times because they will.
Shovel Point brings up a good point. Vox doesn't necessarily have a stake in this, though. I mean, not really. Like I said earlier, Shovel Point. That's my theory. He is going to throw these 72 bears under the bus. Basically for Owen. Owen and Vox are going to throw their bears under the bus, just like they do with everyone. This is a repeat pattern for them. At least in my experience, it is with Owen. Unfortunately for those bears who are now getting sued, we tried to warn you. Us at the DZ and Milger Nation and everyone else, we tried to warn you, and we documented on all this stuff. Porcelain warned you too, but you didn't want to listen, and now you guys are going to take the fall for these guys. So, Fox explains later in the stream that he doesn't have a dog in the fight. Do you know what the timestamp is? I don't want to play this whole entire stream. I don't want the asshole trying to flag my video for, for stream mirroring or whatever, even though that's not what I'm doing at all. But Alan in the chat goes, but Sam, Owen is a farmer. It's totally worth it's totally worth it to throw my life away and harassing a blue chip company. Yeah, well, and let me tell you, this isn't the first time the Bears have done something like this. As I've explained to you guys too before, after the whole gummy thing happened, the Bears kept, again with the HJW tactics, the Bears were the ones who were trying to get yours truly kicked off of Spotify and Apple Podcasts, and also bombarding the podcast ratings with multiple mass spams of bad reviews because of the gummy thing, because I was merely associated with John Arcade. So them going after companies like this is not necessarily anything new per se, but this is the first time where I guess it's really backfired on them. So yeah. Also, Johnny says, remember when Owen got canceled from those theaters and the Bears wrecked them in reviews online? Oh yeah, I mean, they've done, like I said, Johnny, this is their motive. This is their modus operandi. That's what the Bears do. So, that's partially why, at least for the audio podcast, I still am, thankful to have Anchor as a sponsor, because, Anchor basically told them to screw off. So Patreon wouldn't waste the court's time with the 72. The focus would be on Owen, and that's it. I hope so. Shovel Point. If Patreon wins, it opens the door for other companies to sue. God, I hope so. Alan. I honestly, I rarely hope that lawsuits ever are a thing, but in this case, God, I hope they win against Stone and Vox, and I hope they end up cleaning them out. So okay, let's have a little more of this.
Essentially attempt to make their case to the people who are, like the secretaries. I mean, it's as if they would show up at the law school, or not the law school, at the court, and start trying to recite their whole case to the clerk of the court. And so, and the clerk of the court is just sitting there going, dude, just give me your check. I'll give you a number, And so, but you have to keep in mind that there's also another element at work here, which is the fact that we're pretty close to, if we haven't already reached the point where the interests of Patreon and the interests of their lawyers have diverged. Their lawyers have already failed. But they keep getting paid whether they're winning or losing. And the smart move, obviously, once you get to the point where the outcome is inevitable, is, swallow hard, wave the white flag, reduce your losses as much as possible. That's what smart companies do. What stupid companies do is they listen to the lawyers beyond that point. Because once you get past that point, all the lawyers care about is making sure that they keep the checks coming. So they lose, they lose on the important stuff. And then instead of telling the client, hey, look, we did our best, we took our best shot, but we lost. It's time to end this. That would be the ethical thing to do. But what the unethical people do, and trust me, these people are wildly unethical. I literally have never ever seen or heard of somebody who lies more frequently or more transparently than one of the lawyers for Patreon. I mean,
self-projection there, Vox? That's what it sounds like to me, is self-projection there. Oh my God. Oh my God, folks. I just saw one of the bears in the chat replay for Vox's stream just said, as Andrew Breitbart said, quote unquote, war. Yeah, Andrew Breitbart would never be good, would never support anything that idiot Vox and Owen are doing. Julie Bear, I'm going to be making fun of you from now on. Yeah, Breitbart would have never supported any of the Bear stuff. That's, oh my God, that is retarded. So
it's amazing because he will lie about stuff in writing concerning things that he's already written. It's like he doesn't realize that people have memories, or that writing means that things last. It's astonishing. So anyhow, Tyler, if you're listening, I'm talking about you. I'm not even a lawyer, and I can see that you're practically retarded. I mean, it's astonishing. And I mean, here is how dumb this guy is. When one of the lawyers talked to Patreon about a potential settlement, this idiot not only claimed...
By the way, all the for those who are listening and for those of you who can't see in the chat replay, sometimes I'm glad that Vox leaves the chat replay up, because it is hilarious to read as this is going on, because basically, like, Owen and Vox are, I mean, Vox's chat are basically like calling this lawyer guy a gamma. Yeah, this guy is such a gamma that he went to law school. That's how much of a gamma he is. So
that this was an attempt at extortion. Remember, the Patreon terms of use requires you to talk to them. Requires you to talk to them. So one lawyer talks to them, and the next thing we know, this idiot Tyler is writing letters to people about how multiple lawyers are attempting to commit extortion. Now, what's particularly amusing about this is that one of the lawyers had never had any contact with them whatsoever. No conversation, no writing, no anything. He literally accused a lawyer of committing extortion who had never even had any communication with them. I mean, if this...
So, again, this sounds like major self-projection here, folks. I mean, he might as well be talking about himself and his lawyers in regards to Davy Crocco and everyone involved in that. That's what it sounds like.
This guy doesn't end up getting disbarred at some point in time in his career, I will be surprised. Because he has no self-restraint and is just a...
Yeah, because your legal team, which dubs themselves, and again, for those of you listening on the audio podcast, I'm not making this shit up, the Legal Legion of Evil. Yeah, a legal team that names themselves that. That sounds like real... That sounds like a legal team with real self-restraint and respect, right? A
liar that is so shameless, it borders on the pathological. And so, anyhow, so to go on, now, so that was the one issue that we're talking about there. Let's look at some more of this keen legal analysis that we're seeing from the Reddit folks. Let's see. They filed false claims. Patreon is suing for arbitration and lawyer fees. No, they didn't file false claims. What they did is they told
the Reddit folks. That must be us, right? Everyone in this audience and beyond. I'm assuming in this case we're the evil Reddit folks here.
Here's the exact sequence of events. Patreon deplatforms Owen. Owen talks to them, gets in touch with them, and talks to them as is required by the terms of use.
Hold up, Vox. You forgot a couple of things. Prior to that, prior to Patreon taking Owen off, Patreon, I believe Patreon sent Owen 3 warning emails saying that he would be kicked off the platform for violating the terms of service. And he continued to violate them anyway. And that's a big thing here. It's not like when Owen got kicked off Twitter. And hell, even then, even when it came to Twitter, Owen was practically begging to get banned. Remember that? I know Johnny certainly will. Owen was practically begging them. Owen was practically begging Twitter to ban him, and then he cried about it. And Owen begged Patreon to ban him, and then cried about it. So yeah. Milking the piggies for all he can before he changes it up and starts grifting something else. Yeah. I think it said in Patreon's terms of service they can kick you off for no reason at all if they choose. I mean, yeah, that's part of it. yeah, that is true, Johnny. But like, I seem to remember, like Patreon did send him like, courtesy emails, like giving him warnings. So, yeah. No, you're probably right about the terms of service, but I seem to remember that he did get warning emails, so that happened too. Let's see.
Have to talk to them before you go and file for arbitration, and you're not permitted to file a lawsuit. Period. So then, Owen files his arbitration. His backers don't file the arbitration right away. And this is very important. First, because they had to talk to them, which they did. But they didn't file it right away because California passed a law called SB 707 that requires the company that has written the agreement mandating arbitration to pay the fees for the arbitration within 30 days. It's a new law, just took effect January 1st of this year. And we had a pretty good idea. The legal team had a pretty good idea that Patreon was going to be a typical company trying to drag their feet and not paying the fees on time. And we were correct. But that's why the arbitrations were not filed right away by the backers. So what Patreon did is they engaged in a very deceptive practice of having been informed what the arbitration was going to be concerning. They went and they quickly made a surreptitious little change to their terms of use saying, you must arbitrate unless you are going to bring an arbitration relating to what these people have told us. And to make it even worse, they didn't even notify most of the people, most of the users. And it gets better. And this is the big thing. And this is the one that's going to be fun, Patreon. Colin, Tyler, I hope you're watching this, because we're now letting the whole world know about the fact that you violated the data privacy of nearly 3,000 people. And that's the only one that we know about so far. See, what happened is they have such horrifically bad data practices that they actually sent every single backer's information of another creator to Owen. This is...
Well, hold up, Vox. Hold up, dear buddy. That's what you were threatening to do with Davies' backers, right? You were going to subpoena Davies' PayPal. You were going to subpoena Davies' PayPal payments and, find out who all the other gammas were who had ever contributed money to, to Davies' streams and, or Streamlabs. And then you were going to... Oh my God, does this guy not... this guy is literally a walking contradiction. A bald walking contradiction of a man. So...
is a massive data breach. It is a huge violation of the European Union's general data privacy regulations. It's a huge violation of the UK's rules. And although the California Data Privacy Act did not...
Yeah, and the fucking Bears violated all of those laws when they tried to get me kicked off Spotify when they tried to get the Whitfield report kicked off Spotify back during the gummies thing. Especially since my podcast is listed internationally, so technically my show, along with like thousands of others, so I'm not that special, but I am protected. This podcast is protected, at least the audio version, under international law. So, and the Bears violated that, but you don't want to talk about that, Vox, do you?
Come into effect until afterwards. Here's the best part. They still, to this date, have not notified any of those thousands of people that all their account information was sent to a third party. Naughty, naughty. How much they gave, their emails, their real names, who they were donating to, and how long. Now here's the best part: is that these things have been going on for a while, right?
And again, this is all stuff that Vox himself threatened to do to Davy Crocco, right? Yeah, and it's like Shovel Point says in the chat, rules for thee, but not for me, tee-hee.
It's even worse. They've actually put in writing that they don't think that they are liable, that they don't think that they are responsible for the GDPR, despite the fact that they have a headquarters in Dublin, Ireland, which is located in the EU. Now, I live in Europe.
I thought you hated the EU, Vox. I thought you loved to talk shit about the EU and how bad they were, right? And now you're bragging that you live in your... Oh yeah, that's right. You're so patriotic, Vox, that you're a fucking expat.
I'm not a lawyer, but I do.
No shit. I would have never guessed you're not a lawyer.
Run tech companies and so forth, and I can tell you that the GDPR is freaking terrifying. We literally don't send out 1/10 the emails that we would have sent out prior to the GDPR, just because the rules are so strict and the penalties are so harsh that it's just not worth it. Unless you're absolutely certain that people can that you've passed all the checkpoints, that you've dotted all the I's and crossed all the T's and stuff, it's just not worth it. And I know some of you have actually suffered from this because you don't, if you don't whitelist our stuff, we're not going to email you twice. If your emails happen to bounce, we're not sending one again. We and other European companies are very, very, very cautious about this. Why? Because the fines are so harsh that they amount to, like for example, just last week, or maybe it was the week before, it was reported that a grandmother was being fined $50 a day for each day that she didn't take a picture of her grandchildren down from Facebook. $50 a day for one very minor offense. Now, let's say for the sake of argument that the data protection authorities are are willing to overlook the fact that there hasn't been any notification of the wrongdoing in months. And if they're willing to overlook the fact that Patreon's lawyers have put in writing that they don't believe that they're liable.
Okay, I'm not sure what any of
They
this...
don't believe that it applies to them. And let's imagine that European courts and regulators don't love to fine the hell out of every arrogant U.S. tech company that falls into their hands. I mean, it's not like an EU court has fined Google $9 billion, right? Oh, wait, they have. So even if we just ignore all this stuff and we say, well, you know, maybe it's on the level of a grandmother posting a picture of her child.
Oh, you guys are cracking me
a
up
fine
today.
that will probably run somewhere around $30 million. So, I guess that's where most of that $65 million they got in investment last year is going to go. You know, I mean, and here's the amazing thing: they're paying people to do this to themselves. I mean, you know, this is one of the dumbest things I've ever seen in the technology world. I mean, the whole thing was completely and utterly avoidable. All they had to do is just not try to police a comedian on other sites. You know, they never had anything. They never had anything to do. You know, they never had any complaint about Owen's behavior on their platform. None whatsoever. And yet here they go and just begin this failure cascade. Just because they couldn't stay lane and do their job, just because they had to get SJWs involved in trying to police people and trying to tell people what to do, then it just generated this massive cascade failure. And here's the thing, and here's why it's so much worse than it sounds. See, and this is also why the GDPR is so freaking terrifying. You can be fined severely if your processes are considered insufficient. So there have been a number of fines, big fines, even if you haven't had a data breach, even if you haven't violated anyone's data privacy. If they just look at your systems and say, those are not sufficient, something bad could happen, they can fine you a couple $100,000. And there's no appeal. These are not court actions. You know, the European Union is not famous for its restraint in these regards. That's why everybody is so careful over here. And so I looked at the, I mean, obviously, you know, we have to abide by these things ourselves. And so there's a list of 7.
You may have to abide by them, Vox, but you don't, and that's the point. You don't abide to any of this on your own. But at any rate, folks, I don't know. You know, bottom line, Vox is being a moron, and he's being a bit of a hypocrite here. I don't know. Is it at the end of the stream where he says that he doesn't have a dog in the fight? Because that's the part of this that I'd like to get to here, if we can. Just because I do want to jump on the Versa on the Versa Media stream. So, let me check the chat here. So, let's see. Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah. Yeah, they're not gonna take down Patreon though. And I mean, it's really weird that he's talking about EU law here, especially since this is a U.S. company. But anyway, yeah. So good luck with your lawsuit, Vox, and that's gonna be a spicy one here. So anyway, folks, I want to thank you all for joining me tonight here on the Whitfield Report, and let me switch back to my regular view here. We will keep track of this story. So anyway, I want to thank you all for joining me here tonight on the show, and I will be back in probably 5 minutes or so for the third hour with Versa Media. And I want to thank you all for joining me. And, good night. God bless and God save this great nation. And thanks for everything. And I'll end this stream and start a new one. And I'll be commenting on the latest and right news with the real news from Versa Media crew. So God bless, and I'll be back shortly.